Hello, hello, hello. I'm going to give people a few minutes. There's no one here. I'm going to go on anyway, but it's a lot nicer when people are here. So, on the replay, I hope everyone's doing well. I notice if I lean forward, let me get this out. Okay. If I lean forward a little, I can get that glare out of my glasses. Let's do that. I'm just really close and a big head. So, we're going to be reading Dianetics Chapter 4 today and the summary of Book 1. They're both short, so I didn't edit. I'm just going to read the whole thing and we'll talk about it. There's Susan. Oh, I'm glad you're here, Susan. I had a question for you. I made you a wrench, but you're also a member, correct? If so, would you like me to take the wrench off to show you're a member, or you want to keep the wrench? It's up to you. I think it did help me that day I had trolls. There's Nikolai. Hello. Oh, cool. Are you streaming me too? Or are you watching another stream? There's Psych. I've seen you in the chat a lot too lately. Give everybody a few minutes. So, just a question. I did get some headphones. Does my sound? I'm just gonna go with what we did last time because I did rewatch it and it was okay, which is just the mic and speakers and stuff of my computer. Yeah, I would appreciate it, Susan. I thought I didn't need mods, but I don't need it. As we've found out, did anybody watch Aaron today? He was doing some testing. Well, we're all finding out that YouTube. Oh, okay. I do the same thing. Good. Because this is a crappy computer in a lot of ways. And I didn't know it until it was too late to return it or anything like that because I hardly ever use it. My phone is so much more powerful. Okay. We're going to start with some erotology like we did before. Well, I was ready to go, but I talked too long. You know what? We'll just cleanse the book a little bit. Ready to, and we'll just do that. Barb. I could have a Susan. Susan. Only she's not in my back end. All right. I'll do that as a short. I had a little funny erotology to do, but my thing went unlit, and I'll do it as a short and put it on later. We're already talking, so it'll be funny though. I keep playing off of Farrell Cheryl. Like the movie Bolt. Susan! Why I oughta. That's old too. All right. I was just going to give it a couple more minutes. I had so much fun last time. This is super fun. So after I do some reading, maybe if anybody has some comments they want to come on and say, because this one, the reason we need to read the whole thing and it's short is it's the four dynamics. The other chapters, there were parts. If I lean forward, you can't see the glare. There were parts of the earlier chapters that you could somewhat understand why people might find it interesting. Now, you got a picture, if you haven't been here before. This book was written in the 50s. A lot of people read it 50s, mostly 60s, 70s, 80s. A lot of the older people we see now, like He's who shall not be named that wants to sell his book all the time. He talks quite a bit about joining, the 60s and the 70s. They were different, man. I know this because I was born in 1969, and my parents, I found a leopard print onesie that was mine. Please hit the like. Please hit the like. I don't get very many, so I'll take what I can get. So that was my big interest. I think a lot of people's interest is, why did people find this so interesting? The first few chapters I could understand. This one, let's get into it. Because, wow. All right, so this chapter this may be backwards to you guys. I'm not sure because my camera's backwards. The 4 dynamics. Was that backwards for you guys? I might be able to change that. Well, we'll go on. Like we said, we're not professionals. Make sure my comments are moving. If I lean forward a little bit, you don't see so much glare. Let's get into this. Did y'all take some Tylenol? I hope. It wasn't? Oh, good. Oh, crap. I didn't think about this. These are some old readers that I have, and I didn't want you to look up my nose when I was reading chat, but I can't read the book with them. So we'll go to my bifocals. Okay, let's try that again. This is going to be annoying. The 4 dynamics. In the original equations of Dianetics, when the research was young, it was believed that the survival could be envisioned in personal terms alone and still answer all conditions. A theory is only as good as it works, and it works as well as it explains observed data and predicts new material which will be found, in fact, to exist. Survival in personal terms was computed until the whole activity of man could be theoretically explained in terms of self alone. He uses the word computed quite a bit. The logic looked fairly valid, but then it was applied to the world. Something was wrong. It did not solve problems. In fact, the theory of survival in personal terms alone was so unworkable that it left a majority of behavior phenomena unexplained. But it could be computed and it still looked good. Oh, it was just the title, The 4 Dynamics. Chapter 4. Like I said, he uses the word computed quite a bit. Now, if you haven't been here previous, he talks a lot about the last chapter about survival being the goal of man is survival. So he talked about survival at length, even talked about the dinosaurs. Okay. Then it was that a nearly intuitive idea occurred. Man's understanding developed in ratio to his recognition of his brotherhood with the universe. That was high flown, but it yielded results. You can see why they needed classes for this stuff. Was man himself a brotherhood of man? He had evolved and become strong as a gregarious being, an animal that hunted in packs. It seemed possible that all his activities could be computed in terms of the survival of the group. That computation was made. It looked good. Man survived. It was postulated solely in terms of the survival of his group. It looked good, but it left a majority of observed phenomena unexplained. Now, he keeps talking like, is he trying to say that like early man computed this? Or was there a study done? He's always talking about, well, it computed. Well, who computed it? L. Ron Hubbard. It was attempted then to explain man's behavior in terms of mankind alone, which is to say, it was assumed that mankind's survival for mankind. Oh, let me read that again. It's a run on sentence. Assumed that mankind survived for mankind in a highly altruistic way. This was straight down the Sylvan path of Jean Jacques Rousseau, or Jacques. It could be computed that man lived alone for the survival of all mankind, but when addressed to the laboratory, the world, it did not work. And he has to put all the definitions of these big words like we don't know what they mean. Like gregarious, altruistic, Sylvan. Now, Sylvan, I don't know. Sylvan means relating to or characteristics of forests. So, in one word, he's talking about forests. Yeah, okay. Finally, it was recalled that some had thought that man's entire activity and all his behavior could be explained by assuming that he lived for sex alone. This was not an original assumption, but some original computations were made upon it, and it is true that, by a few quick twists of the equation, his survival activity can be made to resolve on only the sexual basis. But when this was applied to observed data, again it failed to explain every phenomenon. I get it, I guess. But I would think if he's talking about man, I'm assuming he's talking about early man, hunted in packs. To me, I thought survival of early man was I need to eat. But okay. An examination was made of what had been attempted. It had been assumed that man survived only for himself as an individual. It had been computed that he survived only for the group, the pack, for society. It had been postulated that he survived only for mankind. And finally, it had been theorized that he lived only for sex. None worked alone. Now, I'm assuming that sentence, I underlined it. None worked alone. The computations or people? I'm not sure what he meant by that. A new computation was made on the survival dynamic, exactly for what was man surviving. All four of these factors, self, sex, group, and mankind, were entered into a new equation, and now it was found a theory was in hand which worked. It explained all observed phenomena, and it predicted new phenomena which were discovered to exist. It was a scientific equation, therefore. No, I don't think he knew either. He's making this sound like there was some big study and things were computed. This is all just his stuff. This is just what he's writing down. He's trying, like, it was a scientific equation. Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was what you wrote down to get people's interest, I guess, and to explain things. And what I got out of this chapter so far is I think in a lot of ways he keeps things obscure for a reason. He uses a lot of big words. He makes it sound highfalutin, which he said he wasn't going to do, remember? And scientific, like there were these studies done and these other people found this stuff out, and that's a way to kind of control people, because if they kind of, it's interesting but they don't quite understand it. So he's like, I'm going to explain it to you. We're going to have Dianetics classes. You can go and take courses and understand this gobbledygook. So from the survival dynamic, in this fashion were evolved the four dynamics. And we hear ex-members talk about this a lot. By survival dynamic was meant the basic command survive, exclamation point, which underlay all activity. By dynamic was meant one of four purpose divisions of the entire dynamic principle. The four dynamics were not new forces, for there were subdivisions of the primary force. Hey, General. I am questioning, did he make up these dynamics himself, or was there something he read? You know how he liked to pull things from all over. When we're done, I might Google that to see if these dynamics were from something else. So, dynamic one is the urge toward ultimate survival on the part of the individual and for himself. It includes his immediate symbiotes, the extension of culture for his own benefit, and name immortality. Ultimate survival on the part of himself. Okay. Dynamic two is the urge of the individual toward ultimate survival via the sex act. This guy, okay. The creation of and the rearing of children. It includes their symbiotes, the extension of culture for them, and their future provision. Now, I'm glad he said this. Yes, Sandy, that's exactly what he did. Now, I've read this before. He talks about procreation. Now he's saying that it's the ultimate survival to rear children, yet wait a minute. They allowed children in the Sea Org. When did they stop allowing it? Was that David Miscavige or was that L. Ron Hubbard? I never did quite get the year that stopped. I'm curious because he writes these things. Dynamic 3 is the urge of the individual toward ultimate survival for the group. It includes the symbiotes of the group and the extension of its culture. Dynamic 4 includes the urge of the individual toward ultimate survival for all mankind. It includes the symbiotes of mankind and the extension of its culture. It's kind of repeating himself a bit. So 1 is himself, 2 is to procreate, 3 group, 4 all mankind. Okay, got it. It will be seen immediately that these four dynamics are actually a spectrum without sharp division lines. The survival dynamic can be seen to sweep out from the individual to embrace the entire species and its symbiotes. To be honest, yeah, I think it was Davy too. That sounds right. Because he died in 83 or 86. I always get that wrong. Early 80s. So that makes a lot of sense. Which also doesn't make sense because now he's closing. Man, these glasses really do reflect. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Oh, that just makes it worse. I'm going to figure out how to connect my phone to this so I don't have a computer screen in front of me like this. Okay. None of these dynamics is necessarily stronger than any of the others. Each is strong. They are the four roads a man takes to survival. And the four roads are actually one road. And the one road is actually a spectrum of thousands of roads contained within the four. They are all in terms of past, present, and future, in that the present may be a sum of the past, and the future may be the product of the past and the present. Yeah, I know. But we just read that L. Ron Hubbard says part of survival is procreating. If you want to look at it from the outside like we do, procreating would be important to the survival of Scientology. but they're not. And that's why they're running out of members. Their members are dying out. All the purposes of man can be considered to lie within this spectrum, and all behavior becomes explained. Well, if you say there's 1,000 roads, then yeah, it would be considered to lie within the spectrum. Everything you do would. He's pretty much just telling you what life is. That man is selfish is a valid statement when one means an aberrated man. And if you remember earlier, if you're new, aberrated just means bad, I guess. I can't remember the exact definition, but we get what it means. That man is antisocial is an equally valid statement if one adds the modifier aberration, and other such statements resolve equally. Let's see. Because that's the one word. I know what it means, but that's index glossary. I'm going to check the glossary real quick on that one. I want to get it right. Because it's aberration. Aberration, oh, that's right. A departure from rational thought or behavior. Aberree was sometimes used in the early days of Dianetics to designate an aberrated person. Okay. I just wanted to remember that. Going week to week, I forget things. Now it happens that these four dynamics can be seen to compete, one with another, in their operation within an individual or a society. There is a rational reason for this. The phrase social competition is a compound of aberrated behavior and sentient difficulties. Whenever I'm reading with... thank you, Martha. Okay, good. Oh, when I'm reading this, with the thoughts in my head of what all the ex-members have told us about what it's like being inside, either being in the Sea Org or public or whatever. And this, we look at this from the outside looking in, or if you're an ex-member yourself, some ex-members may not have read this book. I think he's coming up with things in order to control people because he doesn't want them being competitive in Scientology. Yes and no. Because it would cause a lot of conflict. So I think, and there's so that you can't really have outward ambition. I think that's why people go up and down and around at different posts. Don't want them feeling too special. So the phrase social competition is a compound of aberrated behavior and sentient difficulties. So that's a bad thing. Any man, group, or race may be in contest with any race, group, or man, and even in contest with... I don't want to keep saying that, even though I'm my age. He says it a lot. Race, group, or man, and even in contest with sex on an entirely rational level. You know what? I get, morally, most people believe in no relations before marriage. But I think he pushed that so hard and punished that so hard because I think to keep people from being competitive over a partner or distracted from what they're supposed to be doing. Because I noticed he liked to, well, maybe that was Davey too. They like to split up couples even after they're married for long periods of time. Can't have anything more important than the church. The equation of the optimum solution would be that a problem has been well resolved, which portends the maximum good for the maximum number of dynamics. I know that sentence could be written so much simpler. The equation of the. Yes. Well, I heard a story. I don't know if y'all heard that. A couple got married. I think she was David Miscavige's assistant or worked with him. They got married, and he said, "You can't get married until I marry you," and he never did. They ended up getting a divorce or an annulment or something. Yeah, I know, Martha. Well, it's totally do as I say, not as I do. All cult leaders do that. All of them. This is to say that any solution modified by the time available to put the solution into effect should be creative or constructive for the greatest possible number of dynamics. The optimum solution for any problem would be a solution which achieved the maximum benefit in all the dynamics, which means that a man determining upon some project would fare best if he benefited everything concerned in the four dynamics as his project touched them. Oh, that's why they were talking about it. That was Phil Jones' daughter. Thanks, Sandy. Okay. So he's saying that as long as what you're doing benefits everything from you to mankind, it's okay. And that's, remember, that's what he pushes in Scientology, that they're benefiting all mankind, they're helping all mankind. That's what they're working towards. But but in reality, they want them to not work for themselves at all. He would then have to benefit himself as well for the solution to be optimum. In other words, the benefiting of the group and mankind dynamics, but the blocking of the sex dynamic and the self dynamic would be much poorer than the best solution. Now, tell me if I read that right, but I'm reading that he would fare better if he's working for himself, putting himself, benefiting himself. He would then have to benefit himself as well. But yet we know in Scientology that, hold on. We know in Scientology they're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to be selfish or work for themselves. But I guess he can't go all in the first book that he publishes on the subject, because you still have public and people that don't give their whole entire lives to this and that are just coming in and doing the tech or the courses, or so he can't go all in. You can't be selfish. The survival conduct pattern is built upon this equation of the optimum solution. It is the basic equation of all rational behavior and is the equation on which a clear functions, meaning they're clear, it's in parentheses. So, on which a clear functions, it is inherent in man. Almost done with the chapter, and then there's a summary. In other words, the best solution to any problem is that which will bring the greatest good to the greatest number of beings. We've heard that a lot. The greatest good to the greatest number of beings, including self, progeny, family associates, political and racial groups, and at length to all mankind. Things that he's saying works for humans, he then writes policy and doctrine against it. The greatest good may require, as well, some destruction, but the solution deteriorates in a ratio to this destructiveness employed. Self-sacrifice and selfishness are alike reductive of the optimum action equation, and alike have been suspect and should be. Okay, so now he's saying selfishness is suspect. This is entirely a matter of does it work? Even on an unaberrated basis, there are times when one or another of these dynamics have to be dropped from the computation of some activity or other, and indeed, few problems are so entirely intense that they must take into account all the dynamics. But when a problem achieves such intensity and time is not an important factor, serious errors can follow the omission of one or another of the dynamics from the factors considered. Okay. In the case of a Napoleon saving France at the expense of the remainder of mankind in Europe, the equation of the optimum solution was so far neglected that all the revolutionary gains of the French people were lost. In the case of Caesar saving Rome, the equation was so poorly done that the survival of Rome was impeded. I guess those were examples. But there are special cases when the equation of the optimum solution becomes so involved with time that certain dynamics must be neglected to permit other dynamics to persist. The case of a sailor giving his own life to save his ship answers the group dynamic. Such an action is a valid solution to a problem, but it violates the optimum solution because it did not answer for dynamic one, self. So he's making a case for not caring for oneself, the optimum solution. Many examples of various kinds could be cited where one or another of the dynamics must of necessity receive priority, all on an entirely rational basis. So saving all mankind for Scientology means you can only work for mankind and none of the other three. Oh, and they do work for the group. On an aberrated basis, the equation is still valid, but complicated by irrationalities which have no part of the situation. Many solutions are bad merely because of false educational data or no data at all, but these are still solutions. In the case of aberrated solutions, the dynamics are actually and actively impeded, and as will later be outlined in full. End of chapter. Yes, because if something is important or time doesn't permit, then throwing away the other dynamics is okay. So he threw in some justification in there for sure. All right, so we have a summary that's really, really short. So what we've read so far is what is called book one. So we go to here. So they're divided into books and then chapters. So, book one is The Goal of Man. Chapter 1, The Scope of Dianetics. Chapter 2, The Clear. Chapter 3, The Goal of Man. Chapter 4, The Four Dynamics. And now the summary. Let me get a drink and we'll start that. JB, hello. Oh, that's interesting, JB. JB says, hey, I remember where I heard of Scientology. My wife had to take a world religion class for college, and it was in there under cults along with Heaven's Gate. Most people do think that. I have three drinks going here. I have water, coffee, and ice. That's interesting. Yeah, the word's getting out, especially. I'm glad other countries are investigating them, because maybe if they come up with something under their investigation, our government might take notice. That's something I really want to talk about at a later date. I'm going to get together the forms and everything and show them to you, and I want to see if we can't get out an en masse uh, document filing or emails or something like that. All right, the summary, which is considered chapter 5. Oh, goodness. The dynamic principle of existence is survival. This survival can be graduated into 4 zones, each one progressively portending a better opportunity of reaching the potential of immortality. I don't know if I have to read all of this or not. We'll see. Zone 0 borders from death and includes apathy. Zone 1 borders from apathy and includes violent effort. Zone 2 borders from violence into mediocre, but not entirely satisfactory. Satisfactory success. He puts so many commas. Zone 3 borders from the mediocre to the excellent chance. These zones are each occasioned by the ratio of the suppressor to the survival dynamic. I'm going to skip the rest of that paragraph. The 4 dynamics are subdivisions of the survival dynamic and are, in mankind, the thrust toward potential survival in terms of entities. I think I can skip some of this. Oh. The first of these, he's talking about survival conduct pattern. The first of these, but not necessarily the most important, nor yet the one which will receive priority, which we just read about, in various efforts, is the individual dynamic 1, which includes the personal survival of the individual. Dynamic 2 is the thrust toward potential immortality through children. Dynamic 3, so dynamic 2 is having children. Dynamic 3 is the survival in terms of the group. May include club, military, company, city, state, nation. Dynamic 4 is the thrust toward potential immortality of mankind as a species. Any problem or situation discoverable within the activities or purposes of mankind is embraced within these dynamics. These days I'm actually going to underline this one paragraph. I just want to remind you what he wrote in How to Read the Book. Basic language has been used. Much of the nomenclature is colloquial, which means basic, I guess. The pedantic has not only not been employed, it has also been ignored to not make it more difficult than necessary. I think he ignored that rule quite a bit. He's like, if I string enough big words together, it might sound like I'm smart. Okay. These are the fundamental axioms of Dianetics. The dynamic principle of existence, survival. So he's just going over the dynamics again. We just did that. just did that. He's just saying the same thing twice. The absolute goal of survival is immortality or infinite survival. This is sought by the individual in terms of himself as an organism, as a spirit, or as a name, or as his children, as a group of which he is a member, or as mankind and the progeny and symbiotes of others as well as his own. The reward of survival activity is pleasure. Not always. The ultimate penalty of destructive activity is death. Okay. The dynamics are inhibited by engrams, which lie across them and disperse life force. That was that uh, graph he had back in another chapter, which was confusing. Okay, I'm going to read these because we always hear the book Way to Happiness and we hear about engrams a lot. So this is what he says. The dynamics are inhibited by engrams which lie across them and disperse life force. Intelligence is inhibited by engrams which feed false or improperly graded data into the analyzer, the analytical mind. Happiness is the overcoming of not unknown obstacles toward a known goal and transiently the contemplation of or indulgence in pleasure. Y'all, I know that could have been worded completely. I wish I had that AI generator. I would ask it how to say that different. I actually do have it. Maybe when we're done, I'll play around with it. The analytical mind is that portion of the mind which perceives and retains experience data to compose and resolve problems and direct the organism along the four dynamics. It thinks in differences and similarities. Hey, Carrie Ann. Be glad you came late. This chapter does go over the four dynamics that we hear about a lot, so I was curious to read this one. It's different. He's really just kind of explaining these words yet again. The reactive mind is that portion of the mind which files and retains physical pain and painful emotions and seeks to direct the organism solely on a stimulus response basis. The somatic mind is that mind which, directed by the analytical or reactive mind, places solutions into effect on the physical level. Okay. A training pattern is that stimulus response mechanism resolved by the analytical mind to care for routine activity or emergency activity. I wanted to go into psychology, so that kind of interested me quite a bit. And there's no way stuff is worded this way or talked about this way in psychology. Habit, we all know what that is that stimulus response reaction dictated by the reactive mind from the content of engrams and put into effect by the somatic mind. It's trying to say that habit and our subconscious are only driven by engrams of pain and unpleasantness. That's not true. Aberrations, under which is included all deranged or irrational behavior, are caused by engrams. They are stimulus response, pro and contra survival. Now, I could change that to say irrational behavior are caused by previous trauma. We do know that. Psychosomatic ills are caused by engrams. moments of unconsciousness when the analytical mind is attenuated and yes, to lessen in severity. In greater or lesser degree are the only moments when engrams can be received. So he's saying the only time engrams can be received is when you're in unconsciousness, moments of unconsciousness. I don't know that I have moments of unconsciousness. I forget things. The engram is a moment of unconsciousness containing physical pain or painful emotion. Emotion is three things: engrammic, I don't even think that's a word. Engrammic response to situations, endocrine metering of the body to meet situations on an analytical level, and the inhibition or the furtherance of life force. The potential value of an individual or a group may be expressed by the equation. And it literally has an equation here. PV equals ID. So potential value equals I for intelligent and D for dynamic. The worth of an individual is computed in terms of the alignment on any dynamic of his potential value with optimum survival along that dynamic. A high PV may be reversed vector, result in a negative worth, as in some severely aberrated persons. A high PV on any dynamic assures a high worth only in the unaberrated person. That's it. That's it. Oh, okay. You know what this doesn't tell me? How many people are here? Oh, sorry. There it is. There's 12. Okay. I get why, again, I have blisters on my brain. Oh my goodness. I know. That we still have that much to go. I'm gonna see if let's like I said, the first couple chapters I got some inkling of understanding of why people with mental illness that needed help might be drawn to this. But when you get into this chapter, you definitely need a class. That's why they had Dianetics centers. And the way he writes, why does he have to make it? I've said this before. If he wouldn't keep repeating himself and he wouldn't have to give you a paragraph explanation for a one sentence, this book could be probably about that long instead of that long. I mean, he thinks we don't understand. Yeah, I mean, there are people that don't understand certain words, but for the most part, but the way he writes it, you have to have a class. I actually did want to, hold on, I have that chat DPT. I want to try something. Where is it? I only played with it once. There it is. I want to see something. Remember when I said, which paragraph was that I wanted to do? No. The engram, no. Well, that's what I'm saying, Susan. Even I'm having trouble. I mean, I honestly don't. I mean, I get the fact that the dynamics are, I mean, you learn that stuff in social studies, just not worded the way he's doing it. Oh, I wish I could remember that paragraph. I wanted to. Ah, I can't remember There was a paragraph I said I wanted to throw into the chat DPT and see. Let me see if I can find it again. Hey guys, hey, what's up? It was one of the last ones we read. Ah, this is what happiness. Happiness is the overcoming of not unknown obstacles toward a known goal and transiently the contemplation of or indulgent in pleasure. No, wasn't that one. Darn it. Can't remember now. The somatic training pattern, habit, aberrations, the engram, no, emotion, maybe it's emotion. It's the engrams. Honestly, I don't know if the Sea Org members have read it. I haven't heard anybody like the way to brain melt 101. Yes, that was my goal, to make y'all's brains melt. I haven't heard people like Nora or Aaron mention reading this, just selling it. And I think there was a big lull about it. Like it was a big thing, 60s, 70s or so. And then I heard that this new push was new, selling them again. And in 2007, he changed it. Um, he changed some things and took things out. So I got the pre 2007, which is all L. Ron Hubbard. Um, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe there was a big push in 2007. I think between 2007 and the last couple of years, I think it maybe dropped off. But anyway, if they did read it, I haven't heard them say they did. And I don't think it was required reading because they had Scientology started out as Dianetics centers. It was all Dianetics. Dianetics was, we remember it in the 80s when I was in high school. We even said, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe we should look into it. Oh, thank God we didn't. Yeah, I saw that, a girl that Wiseman, Melsman, I remember. But yeah, he was wearing a Way to Happiness shirt. Thinking about getting that Way to Happiness booklet too. Yeah, you can take your tinfoil hat off now. I'm done for the chapter. I really, oh man, I can't remember what paragraph. I was like, man, I know that could be written better, and I wanted to put it in Chat DPT. It sounded like it might have been the happiness paragraph. Is the overcoming of not unknown obstacles toward a known goal and transiently the contemplation of, or yeah, I want to do that one. How do I do this? I'm going to try that one. Can you take the following paragraph that I'll read and write it much simpler? Happiness is the overcoming of not unknown obstacles toward a known goal and transiently the contemplation of or indulgence in pleasure. Okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I don't know why, but certain comments just kind of, what? It's, I don't know. He reminds me of a politician with doublespeak and definite changes. Exactly. Th- if you can do it, do it. What it is if I try to move it and I touch on it, it wants to jump over there. Okay. So this is what ChatGPT did. Let me reread that paragraph again. He says, happiness is the overcoming of not unknown obstacles toward a known goal and transiently the contemplation of or indulgence in pleasure. This is the simpler version. Happiness is overcoming obstacles we know about to reach a clear goal and sometimes enjoying moments of pleasure. If we could chat GPT this whole book, we might be able to understand it. Why couldn't he write it like that? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm shaking too much. I get animated. I'm just like, and it was shorter by like almost a sentence. So, yes. I have to say the other chapters were a bit more interesting, but this one I mean, we know why he talks about, I think so. That's what it sounded like to me. Cuz they said overcoming obstacles, and he has to say overcoming of not unknown obstacles. It's overcoming obstacles we know about. So he says not unknown when it could just say no. Unknown means known. So we can take 3 words and turn it into 1 word. Known. So that's what he does with the whole book. He makes it so complicated. He has to sound like he's a professor and he's not. Didn't he say he was a doctor or something? He's not. He lied about so much stuff. I can't even tell. So that one wasn't interesting enough to even have much of a conversation. Like a dang politician. I know, right? So, oh, before I switch glasses, I'm on the 20th. I have an eye appointment. I'm getting better glasses. Dingbat. Let's see what's upcoming. All right. So, book 2 is the single source of all inorganic, mental, and organic psychosomatic ills. A whole book. How many chapters? I'm just going to go to the front. It'll tell me. I love that he had a how to read this book chapter, and that was okay. So, book 2 takes 10 chapters to explain the single source of all inorganic, mental, and organic psychosomatic ills, the analytical mind and the standard memory banks, the reactive mind, the cell and the organism. Really? He's going to have to teach us about organisms. Chapter 4, the demons. Chapter 5, psychosomatic illness. Chapter 6, emotion and the dynamics. Chapter 7, prenatal experience and birth. That should be interesting. Chapter 8, contagion of aberration. Contagion of aberration. Chapter 9, keying in the engram. Chapter 10, preventive Dianetics. Maybe that'll get a little bit more interesting. I can hardly wait. I know, right? So, all right, that took an hour. That wasn't too bad. But I had to stop sometimes so that they didn't get me on reading the whole thing. So, we'll be back here next week at 3. Oh my God. Funny story this morning. I sleep weird. I was still in and out and awake when my husband came home at 7 a.m. Well, I woke up and looked at my phone, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I have the fold, and it has these numbers like this. This isn't the first time I've done this. I looked at it, and somehow at that time I thought it said 128. I freaked out. How in the heck did I sleep all day? Oh my gosh, I only have an hour and a half running around, put my makeup on and everything. And then I go to do a time check and it's 9:30 in the morning. I had 2 hours sleep this morning. I couldn't go back to sleep. I was awake. I'd had coffee and done my makeup, and I'm like, okay, I'm up now. No problem. I'm going to go. So I got an early start today on this. So, I wanted to try to come to Austin tomorrow, but like I said, our truck is giving us issues and we have an appointment at the mechanic Tuesday morning. I don't know if he'll have it all day or not. So I'll try to get out. If I can't, anytime I can't get out on a long basis, I'm going to try to do these chats. I'll have to come up with an interesting topic so we have something to talk about. Last time it was just about what the goings on. The goings on, I know there's still stuff happening, but since I'm way in Texas and not there, I'm just going to hope that it works themselves out, that some people talk to each other and it calms down. I think it will. I think it'll be fine. Aaron said what I kind of was thinking too is we all did really well as more individuals and less as a group. And really, forming a cohesive group is a bad thing because LAPD is trying to label them as a group. If you can label them as a group and get them in trouble as a group, there are other charges that they can put on the group that aren't. And so I kind of hope they just kind of go back to doing what they were doing, which I'm pretty sure they are. So I thank you guys. Yeah, if ever anything happens in my chat, like somebody doesn't see their comment or whatever, just email me. My mods know the only thing I don't like is people just being in here being annoying trolls and not being in on the discussion or just being completely hateful. If it's discourse, I'm fine. And no talking about other creators in a bad way. I don't like too much negativity. But I was gonna say something else. It went right on my brain. Oh, did anybody watch Aaron's testing today? The vertical, the horizontal? Because I found out the hard way that when you try to go live on your phone, they're making through YouTube, they're making you go horizontal. I only did it once, and oh, hubby's awake. Dogs wake you up? They are not hungry. They don't need to be fed yet. It was kind of okay, because they're putting you in people's shorts. You're getting all these people that had no idea who I am or no idea about Scientology, and they decided to be trolls because They're obviously professional trolls. I'm being sarcastic. But I did get some people on there. What are we protesting? And I started talking. They're like, I had no idea about Scientology. And I got 50 subscribers, I think, if my numbers were right. Either that day, 30 or 50. I can't remember. I wasn't keeping up. So I think I know people hate horizontal. I hate horizontal. It's annoying. So what I'm going to do is when I go live on the street, if I'm going back to my 3 times a week, which I hope to, I'll alternate. So one day I'll do normal. I'll see if I can go through StreamYard and do horizontal and like normal. And then maybe once a week or every other time I'll do the vertical, because that gets me out to more people and gets the message out to new people. I was amazed. I didn't understand how that was all working that day because the trolls were off the chain, and we'll just have to deal with trolls to get to the new people. And so maybe those days I won't get my regulars and I may just get new people. But that's the point, is to get this message out to as many new people as possible. So I won't do it every time, but at least once a week or every other time I go live in Austin. I'm not going to do it when I'm at home because I'm on the computer. I am also going to try to figure out how to hook up my phone because all this glare in my glasses. I can switch now. Is probably annoying to you, as annoying as it is to me. I have to lean forward. Here we go. Yeah, I know, right, JB? I will need you mods that day. Yeah, I did. I just so happened I had been thinking about it for a long time, and I just never did it before my memberships were ever available. But I just, when I go live, it's hard to concentrate and remember stuff. I mean, I still have to write down notes to try to remember things I want to talk about because things go right out of my brain. But so they weren't too bad when we finally figured out what was going. We didn't know what was going on. Just all these trolls showed up, and did you notice everybody's been saying, "Oh, the trolls are off the chain." I think they're finding out the hard way what YouTube is doing to us. They're forcing us into the live streams, and because there's no button available for horizontal, it's gone. So the only way to go horizontal on the street on your phone is going to have to be through StreamYard. I haven't done that yet. So I may do a practice. I might do it later. I know a lot of people are on Sunday. I don't care if anybody's there. I need maybe one person. I'll do it in the next couple days. I only need one person to come in to tell me if it's working or not. So it's not really to get anything accomplished other than figure out how to work StreamYard on my cell phone. So we need to do a troll finger workout. Yes. All right. Thanks, you guys. I want to say this was fun. It was fun talking to you guys. And I'll hope to see you soon. Look out for my notifications. Bye.